Okay, so the final video that we're going to be doing this week is we're going to focus our efforts in fixing up the feet and the legs, going up to around the waist area. So the purpose of this is to once again teach how the whole skinning process works, and usually the legs and the feet area are usually some of the simpler sections we can do for this. So this would be a good place for beginners to kind of get started and such. Now, if you get the general idea of how the skinning works and you want to continue to the upper body and the arms, you're more than welcome to do so. But at the very least, try to shoot for the feet this week. And if you could do the legs, then so be it. But remember, you do have 2 weeks to work on this. It's basically this week that we have now and next week. So anyway, let's get started. So first, as I did before, just so that I can manipulate the mesh and everything like that, I'm temporarily turning off the rig that we have over here. This is a new version of my skin file, so that's looking pretty good. And yeah, let's actually get started with this. So when I would recommend working, similar to what we did before with fixing the actual limbs, you want to work on this side. This would be basically our right side, our character's left. And yeah, just basically take a quick look at what needs to be fixed. So, and also something to kind of consider, how far can your foot really go in one direction? Because, I mean, after all, you're not going to go quite this far, although now I can already see a problem. But I'm also not going to go quite this far either. So, just some things to keep in mind. I'm going to put myself back into its default position. So let's see, skin, go to, remember to select the skin when you do this, by the way. Skin, go to bind pose, and bam, there we are. Okay, so first thing I would do is basically go to my skin, paint skin deformers. And again, make sure that you're using the color ramp in the grading area. If you use this, it's going to the actual skinning is going to turn out a lot better. So that's, of course, one of the most important things I would say that anyone should do when they're going through the skinning process. So that's step number 1. Besides that, just make sure you're on the right side. And let's take a look at the toe base. So this one's actually not too bad. We basically want to make sure that the edge loop that's around where the toe is, which is right over here, that this is more yellowish. So the top area needs a little bit of a fix. The part in the front part of the toe, that's more reddish. So let's actually do that. So once again, it's kind of showing what I was showing previously. I'm going to make sure I always like to start at the halfway point, especially if it's kind of messed up like what we have over here. And let's see here. So the stroke, that's currently at a very low amount. Again, the actual size of the stroke can either be changed on the radius U, or if you hold down B as in boy, you can make it bigger this way. But I don't need this to be too big in my case. So again, I'm identifying where the middle point is first. And anything that doesn't need to be there, I'm going to lose. So over here, I'm going to put that to a value of 0.0, actually just 0.1 to get started. So I can identify where the 0.1 section is first. So basically just follow your topology. If you have a decent amount of topology over here, it does make the process way easier. Now there we go. There we are. Okay. Oop, looks like I missed a spot there, but that's easy enough to fix. 0.5. Bam. So everything past this point, I need to make this a little bit more red. So this area over here, I'm going to put that at a value of 0.9. Now, I know that everyone's feet might be a little bit different, but hopefully by this point, and you should have enough geometry to make this work. But I identified the area that was necessary. Taking a quick look around just to make sure I got all the points. Very cool. And then everything else is going to be at a value of 0.9999. That's the most value you can have. And then just go to town on the rest of this. And this might be going a little bit overkill, but at the very least, you'll make sure that the skin is responsive the way it should be. The hardest part is making sure you don't accidentally select something else by mistake, as that will cause problems. Okay, so this area over here, I'm keeping the 0.999 here because when I go to my foot, I'm going to be painting a lot of this stuff in. So, yeah. So this area over here should still be the value that I need to be. Nevertheless, I'm just going to double check. So this area again is the halfway point. This is one of the reasons why we have like this little bend. If it ends up not having a little bit of a fall off, it's going to look very odd in terms of basically it's going to bend too much, and that definitely will not be a good thing. So yeah, this area is going to be a 0.9. So it looks like it's already set up for that, so that's pretty good. Yep. And then the rest of this, so let's actually identify where the halfway point is too. You'll find if you identify those spots first, a lot of other elements you have to do is going to be way easier. So here's the halfway point, because I can see the joint over here. Looks like the halfway point is pretty good for most of it. What can I say? I'm always a little extra cautious. But a little extra caution here will save you a lot of frustration later. Okay, and then this area over here, that's going to be a 0.1. Because again, that's about 10%. You do want a little bit of fall off. That's looking pretty good. Oop. Almost had a heart attack there for a second. Yeah, this area over here, definitely want to make sure I have a value of 0.9. You might have to make elements bigger or more influenced or less, depending on what you're trying to do. So again, a little bit of experimentation is not a bad idea. But yeah, the rest of this heel, that's definitely going to be as much value as possible. So this is going to be 0.9999 for as much value as you can. I'm going to make my brush way bigger. Oop. So it doesn't take me forever to paint this area up. Just be careful that you don't paint more than you need. But that should fix my heel. Just making this a little bit smaller. Again, if you end up making a lot of mistakes trying to paint an area, just make the brush a little bit smaller, and that should hopefully help. Again, when in doubt, follow the topology to paint what you need. Okay, I think I got it all. Oop, not this part. A little bit of a spoiler. Nice thing about the way that the rigging system is usually done, emphasis on the word usually, what you do for one side can work for both. So that's why we're putting so much effort in the one side first. That looks pretty solid, but of course a test will be in order, although I still need to fix this part, but let's see here. Oop. Let's see. Yep, just fixing up this area a little bit. Now most likely, even after we basically get through this part, we'll still need to make some adjustments. If you have the general look of this, you should be in good shape. Now again, I've added as much influence as I can, but again, most likely we will have to adjust a thing or two. But I'm digging what's going on so far. So let's take a look. I'm going to rotate this area. Again, when it comes to the toe, you're not going to rotate it that much. But that's looking pretty good. I'm rotating the foot over here. Yep, the heel is fixed. And again, you're not going to go that far forward, so this is actually okay. And that's actually looking pretty good too. Nevertheless, if you're not too happy with what's going on here, this gets us to a new tool that we can use for this. And that is using the smooth, because now we can basically use the smooth option to ease this area should it be necessary. You'll find this is going to be really helpful for areas that have a lot of influence. So I'm actually pretty happy with this. Oop, went a little too far. And if you think this area is not going enough, you could always paint that area as well. But this is again why fall off is important, so that there's a little bit of give as you go. But I'm digging what's going on here. I'm saying digging too much, I'm sure, so I'm going to try and find some new vocabulary. So anyways, skin, go to bind pose, and now the big test, the real test to make sure this works okay. Okay, so I'm going to select one of the other bones, and here's the scoop. I need to basically copy what's going on this side to the other one. So this is some new elements that we're getting into. So to mirror this, you go to the skin option, you go to mirror skin weights, go to the little settings box that's over here. I'll just keep this up here for a second. So again, skin, mirror skin weights, hit the settings box. Again, make sure it's YZ, that you go to positive, that's this side, to the negative, which is this side. And all the other settings pretty much can stay the same way, at least from what I can see. And just give it a quick apply and just take a look at everything. So if I hit apply over here, that's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty good. Skip this bone, but you can already see that what we did for this side is already happening for this one. So you don't have to do both skinning for both sides, and this should keep things pretty consistent. This is one of the reasons why when we did the shoes and we did the hands and all this other stuff, why I wanted you to combine them in the first place so that they would be able, so what you did for one could work for both, saving you quite a bit of time for the skinning process. So that actually made me pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with this so far. Now I'm going to save this because I do not want to have to do that again. I'm going to keep this off for now, I think. Because I'm going right to the next one. Although, if you are done for the day, you will want to turn on your controllers again by going to Control Rig. But I'm going to keep on going. Before anything else, to do the testing, I need to make sure that the rotation is in objects. Yep, it is. And oh my goodness, you could already see that there's some problems. But the good news is these are relatively simple fixes. Now, because I can't really see inside the shoe, nor can I see underneath the shirt, I'm going to go into my layers. This is why you have to have layers here, by the way. But I'm going to turn off the visibility for the shirt temporarily and turn off the visibility for the boots. And I'm going to move on to my next step, which is getting the skinning for the pants. So getting in here. Of course, it pays to make sure you select the actual mesh itself. Yep, that's the problem. Too little influence in the legs in these cases. But good news, this is a relatively simple fix. So yeah, first thing we need to do, we need to identify where the middle spot is and give that the half influence. So I can already see that this is not going so great. So this is where the middle area is going to be. I'm going to actually add in the 0.9 area over here first. The reason, now this isn't the 0.999. The reason why I'm not doing that one first is I need the area that's going to bend. I'm just going to go around like this. So again, you have to follow the topology when you're going with this. But this is why we smooth this before the next step. Yeah, that's looking nice. And this area over here, that's going to be where the 0.5 is going to be. This is why we did this in this order, to basically make this way easier to deal with. And then this area over here is going to be a 0.1. And again, most likely we're going to have to go beyond these settings to wrap this up. But at the very least, we can identify which areas are which. Oop, didn't go too far, thank goodness. Cool. And then anything past this is going to get the 0.0001 treatment. So I'm just basically marking that up. But again, there's a chance that we're going to have to fix that up a little later. Now, everything below here, that's going to be 0.9999 because this has to have total influence on this joint. So I'm going to make this bigger. And I'm just painting around that area like so. There we are. So that's definitely going to have a much better look to it. And I'm going to go over the upper leg. Do the same thing over here. Although I think I'm going to shrink down the brush just a smidge. Yeah, there we are. Maybe a little more. And that's looking pretty good, but of course the real test is how well it bends. Okay, and looking not too shabby. I think over here I might want a little bit of give. Yeah, just a small bit of give should do the job. This is what smooth has been made for. Just add a tiny little bit of smooth, and that should... Oop, went a little too much there. So definitely going to need to shrink down this area. That's looking nice. Just going to move this up a little bit more, but overall I'm pretty satisfied with this. Hopefully I won't have to go quite that far, but it's nice to know that I could. There we are. Cool. Well, that's looking pretty good. So once again, I'm going to go to my Skin, make sure that the mesh is selected, go to bind pose, there we are. Now I'm not going to lie, the hips is usually the more challenging spot that a person has to do. So if it takes a little bit of time, you might want to just kind of keep that in mind. In fact, I'm going to go as far as going to my rig, turning on my controller, and saving it. Yep. Again, this is just to be a little extra safe. So turning off the rig, putting this to none. Okay. So first thing I need to do is I need to add a little bit more influence in this section, I think. I'm just going to rotate this higher. Actually, that's not looking too bad. I might keep that as is, actually. But this area over here definitely needs to be fixed. So to do that, with my mesh selected, I'm going to actually select the hips, and I need to basically add more of an influence, because if I actually take a look at the influences here, I can already see that there's going to be some problems. So I'm going to add total influence at the very top, because I don't want this area to move. And then I'm going to probably use a little bit of a smooth in these other areas. So go into replace, go into a value of 0.9999, which it already is, go from the middle, and work my way over. Now, I'm not going to lie, the hips tend to be a little bit of the trickier areas. So that's one of the reasons why I want to kind of stop at this point over here. Once again, if you do want to continue going, you're more than welcome to do so. And I want to put at least a halfway influence in the middle area over here. So I'm going to put that at 0.5. And I'm going to add at least a little bit more of an influence in this section too. So that should have maybe about a 0.9 influence. Again, I'm making it red to basically identify that this area is going to keep better consistency when my leg bends. In fact, I might even want to go all the way around at this point. Okay, so I'm going to check my upper leg here for a sec. And again, there's always a bit of a debate whether or not how far you need to go with this. But again, if you're using the replace, you can put that at maybe 0.25. This is where the 0.25 kind of comes in. This is what I'm talking about with seesaw effect. What you do to one side basically affects the other, like this. And then to even it out, you can smooth this around. Just try not to go too crazy with this. And that's looking pretty good. So let's actually take a look at how well it bends. Hey, not too shabby. Although the butt looks like it probably could use a little bit of change there. Although at the top, which is this area over here, that's looking pretty good. You're not going to go quite that far, so don't worry about that. But let's see, I would say that you go at least this far, so I might need to add a little bit of a smooth over here. So let's actually add those in. So bunk. And again, the smooth is going to come over. Again, just watch your topology. Just make sure everything, when you're moving this, make sure that everything bends in a nice way. Oh boy, definitely need to fix up a couple things here, but again, you're probably not going to need to get even close to this. So I wouldn't worry too much about this back area. There we are. And then just going to move this leg forward. Once again, going to check this area over here. Make sure the very top is affected as little as possible. But I am going to fix some of these other areas up. Like the undo button, whoever made the smooth option, I want to buy that person lunch one of these days, because this definitely makes the rigging process a lot more smooth. Pun intended, of course. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Let's move it in a good way. So, I'm going to put this back to its default position, go to bind pose, and the last thing I'm going to do, though this one might be the toughest, is I'm going to put this to the side. Again, don't worry about going too far with this. Again, think about how far a person can naturally go. And this might even be too much, but let's take a look. So that's looking nice. But yeah, you're not going to go too far out with this because of, well, obvious reasons. There's just some situations where the human body just doesn't move that way. Okay. Well, that's looking pretty nice. Okay, so I'm going to go to skin, go to bind pose. I'm just going to do a quick little go forward and go back. The big thing that I wanted to see from the back section is if this area kind of crumples up or something like that. And that did not happen, so that's very cool. I'm pretty satisfied with this. Okay, so once again, selecting the skin, go to bind pose. And I'm going to take a look at the hips over here to make sure that what we do for the one side happens on the other. And I'm going to go to skin, mirror skin weights, fingers crossed. Again, make sure that the mirror axis is Y to Z. Make sure the direction is selected over here. You're going from positive X to negative X. Then you hit apply. And looks like everything worked pretty well here, so I'm pretty happy. But nevertheless, double check. Okay, that's looking nice. I could always add more of an influence on the side of the leg, but I wasn't seeing any problems, so I can just keep that as is. But this area, the part that's the most important, that's working like perfectly. And with that, that's as far as I really wanted to go today. And we're already about 30 minutes into this, so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to just focus on those two areas. So if you have those two areas done, well, don't forget to turn on your controllers again, just to be on the safe side. Control rig. And yeah, you could always turn on your boots, just to make sure everything's on the up and up. Ooh. Of course, it helps if you actually select the proper controller for this. Yeah, there we are. That looks nice. Now again, if you have the controllers on, you can't do the bind pose, so please keep that in mind. I just wanted to do a quick little test with that. Okay, so with that, and again, I'm back in my original pose, which is awesome. Take a moment to save. Definitely never forget to save in these points. When we do the upper body, I am going to take a moment to save that again as version 3. But again, if you're able to get the leg and the foot done, if that's as far as you want to go this week, that's perfectly fine. You had to do a lot of stuff this week, and if you got this far, I'm really proud. And if you do run into any questions or have some problems, message me as soon as possible, and I'll be sure to get back to you on those. Again, if you need some references, I did put some pre-made rigs on the website, the Blackboard website, as well as all the values, talking about all the percentages and so on. So that's pretty much the long and short of everything. I'm just going to save one more time because I always like to be a little extra cautious. And thank you for joining me today, and I will see everyone on the next one.